I'm honestly tired of it. Like, every one of you sanctimonious douche nozzles who, condemns AI use and is shaming your busy, and the way that the elephants in the room are being ignored entirely is really starting to frustrate me because I'm seeing this whole wave of criticism of AI water consumption. And I mean, I'll admit that, using water and everything, especially fresh water, is a bit of a problem, especially because it's a limited resource and everything in our society, and we are effectively continuing to pile and further greater uses on it for the energy. I mean, what, like fracking? At this point, hydraulic fracking is using up massive degrees of water, animal agriculture. We got too many things that are using water for one reason or another, so adding yet another to this is definitely concerning. But the whole problem that I'm having for with a lot of the wave of new criticisms that's being launched is not so much the it's not so much that people are making it. It's that they're fixating on one thing, one target alone, and they're not really zooming out to see the bigger picture with it. It's this this one cherry is one that we don't like and everything. And I think AI gets singled out a lot because it's the new, and it's like there's this oh so human instinct to hate on anything that's new and popular. That's the well, AI isn't really new, but it's like old new. It's fairly recent, is what I mean. It's not like brand new. As a correction, because there's always going to be somebody that comes into the comments and is like, no, tries to nerd over it. But yeah, no. I mean, I know this. It's not brand new. It's been around for a couple of years now. But generative AI is newish enough that it's going to get dogpiled by people because this is what humans always do. It's predictable. When something new comes around, people may first experiment with it, but then they start to, really consider it in the big picture, and then they start to ponder it, and they start to look for the downsides, and then they discover that AI uses water for cooling, and then they rush off to condemn it on that basis. But, I have the same problem with a lot of things that happen in our society, where people do this and do this. I don't like it to see anything really singled out when when you can see how it's being done by everybody basically, or multiple sectors are doing the same thing. I mean, as an example, I don't know, like one example in particular that came up here on YouTube was, like, for instance, I can find videos on YouTube of literally every company, even the government's shipping services that ship packages around, right? I can find examples of employees that are just like doing things like throwing packages over the fences and acting completely disgruntled and irresponsible with people's packages. It doesn't matter what company I look up. I can look up DHL, find ones for them. I can look up FedEx, find ones for that where they're manhandling. I can look up UPS and find a disgruntled, like a disgruntled ish, not like fully disgruntled, but partially UPS worker that's throwing people's packages over the fences and everything. And moving along further, you've got bad postal service workers who do the same thing. I mean, it's all over the place. Every company has bad apples in it. It's a human problem. You can't single any of them out when they all have the same problem with employees that sometimes mishandle people's packages. Every company has to deal with this problem. Effectively, if they're in the shipping industry, it's common across the entire sector. And so it does frustrate me to see people single things out when there are bigger bad actors in something. And I think that this is what really pisses me off, and actually has really pissed me off when it comes to a lot of the wave of AI criticism, because a lot of it is coming from well-meaning people, but these people, they haven't done the intellectual work of examining the bigger picture, right? And the bigger picture is this, basically: animal agriculture consumes water at a scale that cannot be matched by AI. the amount of water like each ChatGPT query consumes is about 1 tablespoon. Consider that it takes about consider the scale of what happens with animal agriculture. The crops that the cows eat are expensive in terms of water, corn and alfalfa. I think like that stuff. It consumes a lot of water when it's being grown, which means that every hamburger, by the time it ends up on your plate, has consumed 400 gallons of water. To match the impact in terms of water consumption of a single hamburger, I would have to make 100,000 ChatGPT queries. Do you understand? Right, the criticism that AI is getting for its water consumption is out of scale, out of proportion to the bigger picture, the wider impacts on society by all the sectors. I mean, you have a massive amounts of water that's also being used for hydraulic fracturing. You know, it's all over the place. There are AI is being singled out, even though AI's water consumption is very tiny compared to other sectors, and that just doesn't seem socially appropriate to me that that behavior is happening. You know, every sanctimonious douchebag who is condemning people for using AI and is still chortling down that hamburger is a gigantic hypocrite.